Hi, I'm Peter Gould. This is episode 305, Chicanery.
Hey, this is Vince Gilligan, one of the executive producers.
This is Dan Sackheim. I'm the director of this episode.
I'm Gordon Smith. I wrote this episode.
Skip MacDonald. I'm the editor of the episode.
Michael McKean. I live in that house. Or Chuck does, but...
I love that first shot, Dan.
Yeah.
I love that. How'd you get that? How'd you with the lawnmower?
I was actually just looking for something that was like a Breaking Bad visual.
Nice.
And, we went out, we were scouting the house, and I thought, man, somebody needs to mow this lawn. And I thought, well, how can I turn that into a Breaking Bad visual? And then I just sort of cued into the stuff that you had done.
You did it. Is it mounted to the? I mean, is it like what's the camera on? People geek out over this stuff. I know I do.
It's actually, in part, we mounted a small camera to the innards of a lawnmower there, but then we also did some like tabletop stuff on the stage.
That's cool.
Yeah, as I recall, there was a more extensive exterior sequence. We cut it, and then you found a way. You, working with Robin, our producer, found a way to kind of reinstate some of those exteriors that we had to cut for.
Yeah, we had a sequence of in the garage, moving things in from outside, and Jimmy sort of choreographing all of this stuff, but we couldn't find the way to schedule it. But then Dan sort of like, what if we could? It felt really good to get outside because this is such an interior episode. So
yeah, I vaguely remember that sequence now.
Yeah, and then we were figuring out how to do this.
This sequence is shot with the Varicam, which is native ISO of 5000, and it's one of my favorites that we did with this camera because of the candlelight. Most of the sequences we've done with that camera are usually night exteriors, and this one just has a really different feel to it. It's
So do these hands, by the way. These are not my hands.
Oh yeah.
No.
Yeah? Whose hands are they?
No, this is one of our caterers.
Oh.
One of the guys on the truck, he said, let me just compare hands. He shows me his hands, which look like a guy who actually does things for a living. I got these little actor, guitar player hands, and it's a different deal. But it was a very nice bit of cutting there, which told us all we needed to know.
Good job, Skip.
Well, thank
Absolutely.
you. And I never knew those weren't your hands, so
No.
I didn't either.
fooled me.
It wasn't me playing the
Well,
piano
now
last
you ruined
season
it
either.
forever.
Yeah.
I
The
love that
magic is
sequence
ruined.
too because it shows his sort of. It's a way of sort of through this sort of slavish preparation, the extent to which he loves this woman.
Yes.
I agree. Rebecca. And there's Ann Cusack.
And
Annie
Cusack.
Cusack. Ain't she a dear?
What's with the candles?
I've never met her either.
Yeah, was she something?
You had never met Ann Cusack?
Isn't that terrible?
I haven't either.
There's a vein of talent running through that family, by the way. The Cusacks.
That's true.
Probably comes from living near near Wrigley Field.
I get on the phone
Oh.
to the city to make a long
I think that's true. I think that they grew up right near there.
my payment. The deadbeat at 512 San Cristobal has
This is so much fun to see the two McGill brothers actually scamming together for once.
Yeah.
They've been scamming each other, and now for this one sequence, they're co-scammers.
Yeah, and with Jimmy kind of playing the, kind of the wingman in a sense. He's kind of suggesting the restaurant and all this stuff just to no, keep it going.
dinner's almost
It's nice seeing these two getting along.
It's so brilliant
Yeah.
that you've actually that platform this thing that he's going to do in terms of transposing the numbers here, and how that plays out later in terms of sort of the key to the dissolution of their relationship.
Yeah.
And correct me if I'm wrong, you guys, but I believe that the way we came up with this sequence was just really because we wanted to know more about the relationship between Chuck and Rebecca. And because the question came up when we started breaking the episode, does Rebecca know about Chuck's problem? And of course, it was pretty important that she didn't know about Chuck's problem.
Yeah.
I love that shot.
And that was sort of that stimulated this whole thing. It's funny how these scenes often come from problem solving in a weird way.
It's also interesting that this echoes the dinner table scene from last season.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Same positions,
that's true.
but a different level of warmth.
Mm-hmm.
obviously.
So, Dan, this is and Marshall and you guys were. There's no other light other than candles. Is that?
There's no other light other than candles.
Wow. So you're getting your Barry Lyndon.
That's
right.
Yeah,
Exactly right.
Nice.
So Jeffrey Unsworth shot that?
Barry Lyndon.
That's.
I believe that's right.
Boy,
That's
you're
a
good.
guess.
I think it's
Just a guess. I'm
It
a bad nerd
was either
if I
him
don't
or
get it
John
right.
Alcott. I think it was Barry. I think it was Unsworth. I think you're right. No, I think it was Alcott. Anyway, if only there was a way for our audience to find
No,
out.
I know. If people had computers in their own home.
Yes.
Or their
Somehow.
well, as I recall about that scene, all the actors had to be pretty much locked down, otherwise their eyes would go out of focus, even a millimeter or two. But it looks like you guys had more room to maneuver here.
Well, we've also had, 35 years worth of technology. And,
Yeah.
the cameras have grown up.
Yeah. Well, fast film back in '75 was probably, what, 400
I don't know.
ISA or whatever, and this is like 5,000. Yeah.
It is. It's interesting though to compare this scene to earlier scenes with Flash. But one of the problems we had was that we've typically put a look to flashback scenes. It's a bluer look with what we call crushed blacks. And this scene, we took a little bit of artistic license on that score because I think we all felt that we wanted a warmth in the connection between Rebecca and Chuck, and the blue, the going as strongly blue, felt like it was sort of fighting that. So
I think it was really important to put us in the room with these two.
Yeah, we
And
laid
that's
back
what
on
you
it.
did.
Yeah.
No distractions, no tech distractions.
It's the most intimate we get to see of those two characters, and I think it is important that we feel it's warm before it all goes to hell.
Yep.
Now, Dan, you have we've given you a directorial problem, visual directorial problem. This is how do you show what Chuck's feeling? What was your approach here to express Chuck's state?
One of the things that I learned early on was always find a way to express point of view. Be solidly locked in the point of view. That I think Vince and I sort of came up through the same Chris Carter school and that.
We sure did.
And so we, I sort of took a page from what you guys had done before, and Marshall and I experimented a little bit with
There it is.
film camera. And we used this hand crank 35 millimeter camera. It's like a 50-year-old camera to sort of capture, hopefully, sort of Chuck's interior landscape, for a pretentious way to state it. His state of mind. And it's pretty effective. It actually feels like you can actually sort of feel the electricity in the shot.
And that's an in-camera effect. So it's actually you were rewinding the film, and then
do a double
exposing
exposure.
it. I think it might even be a triple exposure.
I love it.
And it's so there's nothing digital about those moments. That's the most analog we've ever gone.
Yeah.
I love how you cut that skip, because there's in the cranked footage, you see him grab the phone, and then when you come out of it, he throws it for real. So it has this effect
I
of,
love that as well.
like, imagining what he's doing.
When I last looked at it. That's fantastic.
That's great.
No, it worked really well, and it was such a great effect not to have to worry about creating something along with it.
Yes.
It worked fantastic.
Beautiful editing, beautiful everything. I miss film. I miss shooting on film. There's a lot to recommend about video, digital, whatever we call it now. But I miss film.
I miss film too. Absolutely.
Yeah.
But it's this digital. It has a different quality to it.
Yeah.
There are things like any medium. There are things that you can do with it that you can't do with film, and vice versa.
That's true.
One of the things I'm so proud of, though, and I love the way Dan approaches showing Chuck's inner world, because all our directors have found different ways of doing that. We've seen what it feels like to be Chuck a number of different times, and each time the director and the editor have found a different way into that world, and it all feels like the same show. It feels like the same character, but there's unique twists to it, so it's not like there's one look that we go to whenever you get into Chuck's head, and I think that's it just shows the range of the possibilities in this crazy medium of film. It's just there's so many possibilities. Why lock yourself into one?
Nice cameo by Ivanka Trump there.
This was Dan. As I recall, this was your idea to have these folks with their pets. What were you thinking there?
It just is one of those stereotypes, one of those cliches that is just, I guess a cliche is a cliche because it's true that you have all these people in there that sort of, they start to look like their pet, or they get a pet that sort of looks like them. And there was this guy holding this iguana, and it was in a cage, and we could never figure out how to make the shot work. And the AD, Rich Sickler, who's just such a smart guy, he said, well, let's just take the iguana out of the cage and have the guy pet it. And it's sort of subtle, because I remember when we had started this, you said, now don't lean into the comedy. But it was subtle, but it's so strange.
Yeah, it was smart.
This was so funny.
Do you have to have an SPCA guy on the set for a scene like this with all the animals?
Pretty sure you do.
Yeah. And I love this guy. I love
and this is the
Joe.
first time you have Jimmy with this character.
Yeah, that's right. First time they met, right?
Yeah, it's our first crossover from, we see that Mike has given his information from his contact with the vet, who is a good vet and concerned about Jimmy and the fish because he thinks he's just going to dump this animal.
Is that character in Breaking Bad, the vet? Do we ever meet him?
Nope.
No. He would have been fun in Breaking Bad.
That's right.
And this is the Carpenters Union building, right?
That's right.
This is an interesting building.
It's a wonderful singing group, and they also have a beautiful building.
That's right.
Yeah.
As long as you can avoid the statue of the carpenters laboring away on something that they're building in bronze.
No, I love this location.
And this is your buddy, right?
This
Peter?
is Michael Chifo, who I go way back with. I actually cast his wife, Beth Grant, in my student film back at USC. So we've known each other a few years, and he's a wonderful guy.
That's cool. And Rex Lynn, I love Rex Lynn.
Yeah, he's
and
great.
Kara Pivko.
He showed up on something else I was watching the other day, and he's always great, this guy.
Yeah.
And Kara's super.
He's
She's
fantastic.
wonderful.
He's bigger than life.
Yeah.
He is.
I hate to be a buzzkill.
He takes such pleasure in acting and in being there. It's infectious.
Charles has been making some very ugly allegations about his
I
brother.
have to say, one of the fun things about working on the show as a freelancer is everyone loves being there so much, and everyone loves the words, and everyone just loves to act so much. It's such a pleasure.
We're kind of a good hang. I think everybody has a good time on the set.
You counting Gordon in this?
Yeah, no, not
Well,
me.
no, Gordon never has a good time. No.
That's
He's on the edge of his seat in a bad way.
No, Gordon is fantastic. You know, maybe there are those moments where he said, "So this is really the choice you want to make, huh?" In directing the scene. No, he's a great was a
Don't
great partner.
ever point out grammar mistakes. If you want to get on his good side, no.
I correct my grammar mistakes.
Yes, you do.
We're all
Yes,
human.
you do. You just don't notice them when you talk.
There were a lot of words here. There was a
Tell
lot
me
of
about
grammar.
it. I know.
So
They were all stuck in my neck.
A lot of words in this episode.
there are a lot of words in this episode.
Yeah.
You figured out there was over 30 pages of dialogue in that courtroom scene?
Yeah.
Something like that?
Yeah.
It's like, what were we thinking? But there's not a spare ounce. I mean, it's all there, and it was all necessary.
There was a wonderful moment for me, and when this script first came out, we made an effort to bring this script to the cast a little bit early because we knew you guys were going to have to prepare. And for various reasons, I ended up coming to Bob's house.
I remember.
In L.A., and there
The day after the election.
Oh my God, that's right. It was the day after the election. And this shows how long it takes us to do the show. It was the day after the election, and there were you, Michael, and Bob, and
Then I'll see you tonight.
Patrick and Ray sitting weeks ahead of schedule, reading the scenes out loud and working on them. It just made me feel so wonderful and so lucky to be working with a cast that's because you guys were just locked into it right away, and it was getting to hear even that first early version gave me this wonderful sense this is going to work. It's going to be great.
We spent a lot of time in this room, didn't we?
This was all built, but this is an actual courtroom, or was an actual courtroom,
Yeah,
but it
it's in
was
that building.
abandoned and essentially
Apparently, though, in
nothing
its
in
day,
it.
it was used for these
an
kind
actual,
of hearings.
It was a hearing room back in the day, but none of this material was in there, just the doors, basically.
And your brilliant production designer created those murals.
How you feeling, Chuck?
Yeah.
This is I have to give props again to Dan here because we had a selection of other courtrooms that we were kind of circling around, and Dan really pushed and said, I think we can have something that has more age on it. One of the tricky things about shooting in Albuquerque is a lot of the town was built really in about 15 years in the 90s, the late 80s to the 90s. And so a lot of places look like HHM or like the Carpenters Union. And Dan, you really wanted something with some more older texture. And I think it was a really wonderful thing to push for, and it worked out great.
Yeah, very smart.
With the trick, of course, that it had to be someplace with windows, because we knew that we were going to have a whole section with the lights out, so we needed to have some natural light kicking in.
Good point.
A lot of requirements.
Yeah.
Because a lot of courtrooms don't have windows.
Yeah, and that we would be able to control. So, because Marshall needed that we were shooting well into the night, because we're shooting in November, so we didn't have a lot of daylight, but we wanted to get just the hint of some life out of those windows at some point.
Yeah, I also liked every time we went to the courtroom, the lighting was different.
Yeah.
Yes.
It changed throughout, which was really nice.
Very well done.
It did mean we couldn't sneak a shot from one sequence into the other.
Right.
Yeah.
Really? You never were able to do that?
Well, we looked at it, but they look different, and the way you shot, you gave us so much great material.
Yeah,
we didn't
I don't
really
think
end
you
up
needed it.
we didn't have to.
You needed a steal.
I love the way you edited this, Skip. I love this. I love how you hear the opening, the preamble, or the whatever you call it, the opening of the hearing underneath. Beautifully edited.
Thank you.
I think that since the late 60s, sometimes a pre-lap will be overused at times. It almost becomes like a 360. It almost becomes one of those things that we don't know what to do, but we'll do this. I mean, it just happens more in your office. But the sparing quality of this one is it's the economy of let's get started here and let's make this, do this from the ground up like a real day begins. I think it's beautiful.
Yeah. And I like their emotion as they're coming in. They're friendly together, and then they're getting a little more serious as they get here.
Yeah.
And it works with the
Who's that on the wall?
Tom Schnauz.
Without missing a beat.
I know, right?
Well, I was sitting here thinking that looks like Tom Schnauz.
That's funny.
This is Quinn Van Antwerp, who had just wrapped up a long stint on Broadway in the Jersey Boys before coming out to do
I
this.
worked with him in South Pacific at the Hollywood Bowl. At the Hollywood Bowl, you can be a 60-year-old ensign. So, and I was, and he was he's an amazing singer. He's one of these guys who can just knock out the back wall. He's something.
I was at
really good actor too.
He's a nice fellow. I was at the Geffen Theater where my girlfriend Holly is a member of the board, and watching a play. And this tall gentleman comes up to me and says, "Hey, I'm Quinn. Thank you for putting me in your show."
Yeah.
And I'm like, "Dude, I just walked down to the mailbox and cashed the check. But nice to meet you, my friend." And then I saw the episode. He's so good.
Yeah, he's good.
He was great.
We
He was super
originally saw
consistent.
Quinn for episode 4 for the
for
the
Lyle.
manager, the Lyle, and he didn't seem quite right for that. But
No, he's perfect for this.
as soon as we realized we had this role, it was fun for us
I
to
love
go a
this
little
shot.
bit younger.
Yeah.
Look at
I'll
all
tell
these
you,
John
great
Getz in the middle.
Funny
yeah.
story about that shot. I sort of kind of pulled it out at the last minute, and I turned to the DP, and we were sort of running out of time, and we really didn't have time to do it. And I said, "We probably shouldn't do this, right? This is really self-conscious. Everyone's going to hate it, right? I mean, everyone's going to think like, oh, how pretentious." And he said, "No, I think they'll like it." So
I love
either
it.
I have
love
good
it.
taste, or you guys just like
I
pretentious
love
shots.
it.
Oh, we
No,
like-
well,
Whatever you call it, bring it on.
Bring
Dan.
it
That's
on.
all I'm going to say.
well, also because it reminds me of Ryan Johnson and not. I mean, the individual shots don't, but the wonderful, as in both you and Ryan Johnson, who we've obviously had wonderful pleasure working with on Breaking Bad, you both have wonderful eyes, and we gave both of you for your first episode scene, an episode that takes place basically inside of one room, and you guys both had to find ways to make it visually interesting, and you both just did aces, just wonderful job. Because there's not you found so many interesting angles here, Dan, and in this one room.
And each scene feels different. So, Skip, I have to ask you, this is not the kind of thing that we generally have on the show. We generally don't have this amount of dialogue. You're obviously getting a lot of coverage, a lot of pieces. How do you approach it when you're doing your first cut?
You just have to sit down and watch everything you have and try to remember everything you get. Because Dan was great in getting so many different angles, and the performances were so great on every take. So just working, trying to be in the right headspace with each character at the right times, and it's just a time-consuming element to go through all the footage and make sure we got the right pieces.
When you're watching the footage, are you taking notes?
Yeah, I was just going to ask that.
Yeah, on scenes like this that get big, I do take notes. If they're not that long of a scene, I generally don't. But these kind of scenes, I make notes of things that catch my eye. They're not only what their dialogue choices that I like, but their looks and how they're responding to what somebody else is saying.
Nice. And of course, you're looking at the director's notes. Dan, do you give a lot of notes to Skip or to your editor when you're like, I like this take, I don't like that take? Do you do that? I find I never have time
filming?
to do. Yeah, I find I never have time to do that.
No, I never do it.
Or the bandwidth. I don't never have the bandwidth.
I circle them all.
Circle them all.
There might be something.
Use them all, Skip.
Use them all.
There might be something in any of them.
Gang them together and run them on top one another.
Blend them together.
I think the dynamic, the relationship between a director and an editor, if it's good, is as I think with any artist, is that you hope that they bring a perspective and a point of view, and they see something that you just didn't. And so I kind of like to stay hands off in that respect until I'm in the room, because hopefully they've just done something that I wouldn't have thought of. And my fear is that if you say, well, cut A to B to C, you sort of do it like putting together Legos, you rob that person of their opportunity to bring something to the equation.
That's very well put. And it's sort of like with actors, why, don't give the acting note before they do their thing, on the first take. Here's how I see it. Do this, do that.
Even with Michael?
Well, with Michael, yeah.
No, I felt like, Dan called me. I was in New York, and Dan called me and says, "Yes, I got a real MF of a scene coming up. Here's how I'd love to do it." And I was like, I kind of half listened, because it's like, whatever you're going to do is fine. I just got to learn the lines and just kind of make it real every time if I possibly can. I certainly trusted you from the get-go, and that trust was not misplaced. We shot the hell out of the scene, but I never felt like we're playing catch up. We got a lot of shots, and they all work.
Thank you, sir.
I think Bob does a great job in this scene too. He's basically silent for half the episode, but you still feel like you get enough of a sense of what's going on with Jimmy, just on his face.
Well, he's also playing the audience to a certain extent.
Yeah.
I mean, if the show works, it works because we're riding with Jimmy.
That's right. And how great is it that someone mentioned John Getz?
Yeah.
John Getz, who's, folks, have you ever seen the Coen Brothers' first movie, Blood Simple?
Yeah, and
he's
The Fly.
star. Yeah.
Well, when I first met him on the set, I said, "I have forgiven you for getting my role in The Fly." Because I didn't even audition for it. I said, "Oh, I want to play that part," because I heard they were doing the. I read the script. I said, "Yeah, get me in." So I never got in, but he was fine. He was good. And I mentioned he took a lot of parts from me back in the 80s.
Why did he do that?
Because he was really good.
You're good,
Still is.
Michael. You're both good.
Thank you for your patience.
Yeah, there was something about me they didn't trust.
Request a moment to review.
But for me, like in this scene, when they're setting up the recorder, Dan gets all the little moments that we need there. Them pulling it out and fiddling with it. So it's like he's got such a great eye for detail on these things.
Absolutely.
That is a nice
And
moment.
it's one of the mistakes it's easy to make as a director is it just I've got the dialogue. So let's go home. I got the dialogue. I've got everyone saying their lines on camera. And that's so we can go home. And it's not bringing a point of view to it. And
that's not the way to do it?
It's not the way to do it, no. Vince, I hate to break it to you. And this is
I learned something on every one of these things.
And this also, I believe, am I wrong? I think that this was, Dan, this might have been your suggestion to break this up into a series of moments instead of having it be continuous. I think, Gordon, I don't remember. Did we?
Yeah, we were sort of working it around on, because you had, Dan, the idea of that sort of, that JFK-inspired shot, which kicks off the sequence.
Yeah.
And we were trying to figure out a way to kind of move this through and give it a bit of
it was sort of an interesting
dynamism.
challenge because I think it was originally scripted as he's pacing, trying to figure this out, and Michael had a very strong reaction to that idea. And I guess it's one of those things where, you know, everyone sort of in movies does it, but people really don't actually do it.
Yeah.
So I was trying to think of like, how do you sort of expand time and tell a bunch of things in a short sequence, like speak to the nobility of the character and his pridefulness and
his self-image.
And his self-image. And I had always remembered that this very famous shot of JFK where he's standing against this window with his hands behind his back, sort of contemplating some burden. And that's what sort of kick-started it.
Nice. I got to say, Dan, it was we're so glad to have you now in the Better Call Saul family. It took far too long. Dan, when you and I first worked together in the X-Files, you were a producer and a director, and you directed an episode I wrote called Kitsunagari.
Right.
That was the first.
Where the people were painted blue
Yes,
or
you
something?
had to paint a guy completely blue. Yeah, dead body. And except that it was a real live guy, had to be blue. I learned so much watching you direct that episode, and we talked to Peter. You and I talked for years about getting Dan on, but just the timing never quite worked out.
Well, let's hope the timing works out again.
I know,
It is going to.
Shit.
I love doing this show. This was such. I have to tell you, it was such a great experience. There's, for people who aren't familiar with the process of a television show, there's 400 and however many scripted dramas on television, and they're all produced in a slightly different fashion, owing to the nature of the narrative and
I love
the
this
kind
shot,
of
by the way.
producers.
Yeah.
And you guys have such a specific system, and I know that I sort of was a bit of a pill in the beginning about sort of this sign-up process, but I really came to embrace it, that how unbelievably precise everyone is. This is the second half of the clock shot, because actually the true intention was I wanted to try to signify that time is starting to slip away from Jimmy.
Nice.
By the way, that's a very tricky piece of operating that I'm assuming Paul did.
It was. It took something like 15 shots at it.
Cold that morning. And this guy with the cone there, I thought he was going to stop moving from the cold. Oh, Lord, it was cold. Here's an important scene.
Yeah. I love who we're about to see here. Lavelle Crawford, yeah.
I remember when you screened this at the DGA as part of a Academy panel.
Yeah.
And the crowd went nuts when they saw him.
Everybody loves Lavelle.
Bet.
How can you not? How can you not love Huel? That's a great shot. So many
Again,
great
that's
shots.
all about point of view, right? You
get my
actually
bad
want to
thumb in
be
there?
with
Yeah.
Michael. You want to
My
be
gimp
with
thumb?
Chuck.
What's wrong with your thumb?
I'm missing the ending. Oh. And you can see when I'm rolling the tape down.
Yeah, that's
in the first episode this
cut
season.
it off with a circular saw?
Yeah.
Ugh.
It was.
Not
I'm
on
not.
purpose.
I'm not a lunatic. I didn't do it on purpose. Thanks.
So here's part of the interesting challenge in shooting this sequence. What would you call it? The cross exam and what precedes it.
Why would he do that?
I mean, this is the direct
This is the
examination.
The
and
direct and then the cross.
Yeah.
So this dialogue with Michael is something like between this and the next sequence where he's being uncrossed by Bob is something like 23 pages.
Yeah.
And as a rule, you shoot, I think the most you really ever shoot on a TV series is about 8 pages a day.
Right.
And so the challenge was, especially when we got into the cross-exam with Bob, because it was so long, how do you can't, there's no possible way to get it all done in a day. And where exactly do you break it up? And I remember we had endless conversations about this with Michael and Bob, like, how exactly do we do it? How do we find a clean place to cut it off? Also, because out of respect for the actor, you want, once they're sort of in the moment and they're in character, you don't want to you don't want to break that.
Yeah. God, you're right. What a tough thing to have to do.
So what was your solution?
Yeah.
We
tell them to talk faster.
We found sort of a.
Louder, faster,
I guess we
funnier.
found sort of an arbitrary point, but it was before he plays the trick on Chuck.
Right.
I guess that's it.
Nice shot.
I also
That-
we give Gordon all kinds of shit, and he deserves it. But this is really a superlative script. It was obviously, we all broke it together, but Gordon had to face down this. It's an immense job. Writing this making it dramatic, keeping all the point of views consistent, the voices of the characters, and also being as true as possible to the realities of the legal world, and also making something dramatic. I'm very impressed by it, and Gordon just really knocked it out of the park.
He did, but I'm sorry, Gordon. We're not going to pay you by the word.
That's right.
I know.
No, I'd be.
That's my rate has changed based on the number of words. Yeah.
You did a great job.
Thank
Seriously,
you.
great
Thank you.
writing.
I appreciate that. This was, we had a lot of help, obviously, on keeping it in something close to a real world. We have our assistants, especially Ariel Levine, our writer's assistant, found a bar hearing that was like 4 hours long that we went
Was
through.
boring.
It's
beyond boring.
Boring.
It was like watching grass that was painted dry while growing.
Yeah, it was. They're not this exciting generally, so we took some liberties, but hopefully it stays somewhat true to the spirit of the thing.
Well, I suggested to Dan that he shoot it the same way.
Just one lockdown camera.
One lockdown video
with
camera
an occasional
in the back.
zoom from the back of the room. But you decided you wanted all these other angles. I don't know.
Breaks my heart.
Oh, that show-off he directed.
Yeah.
You just want meat and potatoes.
You have what's called a tone meeting, which is the sort of the last meeting where the director gets put on the firing line in front of all the writer producers and says, "So how are you going to do this?" And Peter, you said to me, "So what's your plan? How are you going to shoot this?" And I think I did some tap dancing because I really at that point still had no idea.
You admit, it was a scary. And this is I will say it again. This was a very scary. It's a very unusual piece. Most of us don't have experience shooting something this long, this much dialogue. Interestingly enough, going back to the golden age of television, I was just watching a show called The Defenders from the early '60s.
E.G. Marshall.
I remember that.
Which does have a lot of courtroom material. It's shot very differently. It's a very different cinematic setup, but it's not something we tend to do very much anymore. And I knew the pressure that was on you, Dan, because I think my impression was that perhaps you were thinking maybe you'd get an episode with a lot of Mike sneaking around in the dark, putting things together silently, and boy, that's not the one you got.
I remember when I first got the script and I was flipping through, it's like, okay, where's Mike? Where's Mike?
Sure.
Oh,
It's not like he's not a pain in the
But
ass.
at the same time, this episode has I think the most of our leads in it in one episode, in one scene that we have ever really had. Like we have Patrick, Ray, we have Jimmy, Chuck, Rebecca. We have so many of our leads, and they all had to have sort of their moments, and you had to be able to keep them all alive and in it and tracked. So,
but I think one place where directors don't give enough credit to the cast is that when you have such a superlative cast as you do in this, they actually do things that you never ever could have imagined in your own head they would do, because you're not in the character's head to the same degree. And they do something that then inspires an idea about how you should capture that.
Mm-hmm. And I think for us in the writer's room too, it's like, for as many words as there are here, we pitched a lot of dialogue that we went, Michael just knows that. Michael will do that. We can trust that it's going to be
with a
there.
look.
He'll say we can do that in a look,
Yeah.
and that's really an advantage.
You're saying I'm easy.
No, they're not saying that.
Yeah. Thanks.
Please.
Well, you make our job easy. Let's put it that way.
Well,
That is true.
we like having good stuff to have to say.
So is this as cordy as we're ever going to get this
It
episode?
may very well be.
Season 4, we're just going to do the whole season as one long course. This worked well, so next season's
14% cordier than season 4.
This time it's courtier.
Now with more cordy goodness.
It's courtier.
Funny for two characters who are lawyers, that you spend so little time in a courtroom.
Oh, fucking hate writing these kind of scenes.
It's also
Seriously,
honestly,
we always shovel them off to Gordon.
Yeah.
Also, in real life, most lawyers don't spend very much time in the courtroom at all. Our struggle has been to try to find areas of the law that haven't been done better elsewhere.
Oh, yeah.
Where was Tom in one of those pictures again?
Well, you and I, we talked in the early days about maybe Jimmy McGill is like desperately afraid of actually having to go to court. Will do anything to avoid going to court.
He had a phobia, about going to court.
So like a big season there would be, oh my God, he has to go to court.
Another thing that you guys did that I loved, and that was having the and it's so subtle. There are few observers who come and go in the course of these sequences. There are folks who are. I'm always assuming they're law students who are here to watch a disbarment hearing.
I cannot tell you, though, how much conversation takes place about that stuff. The little details, like Gordon would come up to me and say, now, has he been here too long? And should we get rid of the guy in the purple shirt? And should we move him over? I mean, every detail gets covered to such extremis. And I mean that in the most positive and complimentary fashion. There's no detail on this show that isn't gone over and over and over again. And it really is a testament to the high level of production on the show. Every detail, the casting, the words, every prop. I remember I tell people this story all the time about Hamlin, that when we're picking out his wardrobe, it's like, okay, so here's seven suits or 3 suits, how many days of continuity is now, and here's 4 different options of ties with 4 different options of shirts and 4 different options of collar pins. Pick and choose how you want to put it together, and this all gets run up through the executive producers and every single, the most finite detail. And at first I thought it was crazy, and then I just actually came to so embrace it. I just think it's so fantastic.
That's awesome. God bless you.
It's tricky, and sometimes my family will wonder, why are you spending time picking out frying pans? But
to avoid work.
Yes, of course. The truth is, though, you don't know which is going to be the telling detail, and so you try to tell the story with everything, every choice you could possibly make. And and sometimes I freely admit sometimes we put thought into things that most people will never notice or care about, but I think in aggregate it makes a difference, or at least that's my hope.
How good are these two guys here?
Oh. This scene is, as Dan said, this last act is about 14 pages long, and it's just the two. It's just Bob and Michael, and it's
never a slow moment.
No,
not ever.
There were a couple of points I remember when we were shooting where we'd watch something, and it was so good that Dan and I would high five at the monitors, because it was just that's so great.
Like this beautiful verbal tennis match between Michael and Bob. It was such a pleasure. This was the break-off point, if I remember.
That makes sense. That's a good spot.
That's right.
And these are the photos that Mike took in the, was it last episode or episode before?
It was episode 4.
That's
right. This is the previous episode. That's
previous
right.
Episode. You know something? You were talking a minute ago, Dan, about extras and the folks up on the dais. Is that how you say that word? Up in the front with John Getz. The bench, yeah. Folks, they're not extras. They're actors, but they don't hardly get to say anything, and yet they're doing a great job because there's a lot to listening. It doesn't seem like there is.
This is a scene about, ideally, this is a scene about achieving reason, and they're the grown-ups in the room, like I say.
Yeah.
They are the arbiters, and they're the ones who have to figure this maze out.
It's Ray Seehorn I was talking about that with her at one point. You're not just waiting to talk. The real acting, actually, it's as much when you're not talking, maybe more, as when you are. It's the listening is.
I guess we're not here yet, are we? But there's this line in this that it's so beautifully constructed and so beautifully read by Michael, and it has to do with when he calls Jimmy on his bullshit, and he says, "Oh, is that what you thought, Jimmy? I was going to break down like some character in Perry Mason that you invoke another TV show within the TV show." And I just love that moment so much.
That's a great line. Good job, Gordon. Perry Mason was a good show.
It was, indeed.
It really was.
That was a lot of dialogue.
You know what they do though now? Perry Mason is on all these, stations that cut a lot out of the shows to sell more commercial time. And if you try and watch one, it won't make sense. 9 times out of 10, they have cut a bit of something you needed to follow the story.
Sure, because back then you had probably 6 minutes of commercials in an hour show.
Oh, tops.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. That's true.
Yeah.
And now it's a third of the
easily
of the running time.
I mean, they do it with Law and Order too, and Law and Order they also speed up the theme music in the beginning.
Yeah,
really?
Yeah,
Right. They double time it.
Yeah,
so that they can get another 30 seconds of.
They need their boner pills.
That's right. Yeah,
they don't need their commercials for
the moment.
Oh yeah.
To rattle me. He knows I still have a lot of.
And he opens up his heart here. Oh, it's so beautifully played. It's such a great moment.
Beautifully played.
We knew, and then back to what you were saying about the teaser, Peter, that we knew that it felt like Rebecca needed to be here at this moment for maximum impact, for it to be, if Jimmy was just really going scorched earth, that Rebecca had to be involved. But we didn't quite know what it was, which led to us to start thinking about the teaser. And then, of course, this moment here.
And there's this great moment here where he knows what he has to do next, and he's conflicted about it, Jimmy.
Because Jimmy is not Saul. Jimmy knows Jimmy does know he's going to have to hurt his brother here. He is. I love the way Bob plays this. There's so much complexity to it.
And he's tiptoeing right up to what's acceptable because he knows that they're going to bust him if he goes outside the guidelines.
How much showmanship is allowable? Is always the question. Ray Seehorn and I went up to Stanford a few weeks ago and screened this episode with lawyers. It was a legal seminar, and then afterwards there were legal experts who told us everything that Jimmy did that was wrong.
Really?
But having said that,
they dug it.
They dug it, and they also started telling stories of real California lawyers and some of the stunts that have been played in the courtroom, which are so much bigger than anything Jimmy ever does on this. So, truth, as always, is stranger than fiction.
I love the one you told. They told you where the defense attorney had the wrong defendant sit next to him just to see if anyone would notice.
The defense attorney had a lookalike sit next to him at the defense table, so everyone would identify the wrong person.
I love that.
And judges love it when you do that kind of thing.
Sure.
Shouldn't even tell that story because we should just steal it.
That's exactly right. Yeah. Hey, people who listen to the commentary track can get a little, little
they
extra.
Deserve it.
That's right.
If they hear it in advance,
that's right.
They deserve
if they make it through all this, then they deserve some nuggets.
Tell us where the nearest source is right now.
I love this moment.
Oh yeah.
And a little, as we said on the podcast, a little tip of the hat to One of the best courtroom movies of all time, The Caine Mutiny.
But I'll tell you one thing that's different is that Chuck has a sense of humor here. There's something about that moment where Chuck is sending Jimmy up, which I think is on the page, but I think it's even more in really a Michael's performance.
I love the reversals. Just so many reversals in just a minute or two here.
Oh, this was a big day in the writers' room coming up with all this. Big couple of days.
Oh, we were talking about other stuff when Patrick Fabian had his scene with Ray. How great were the two of them together, Patrick and Ray?
Great.
Oh, so good together. I love that jousting.
And everything's just completely subtext. They've got just little looks about this long history that they've had that's had huge ups and downs. But
and there's that wonderful moment where they talk about nepotism.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a great moment.
Yeah.
The name of your firm is
Patrick is able to say "fuck you" with just a look. It's like, go to hell.
Yeah.
What now?
Oh, this gave me chills when I saw it the first time. Literally did. It's like the greatest magic trick in Vegas or something. It's like,
is this your card?
Yes.
Yeah.
And
you recognize that, man? I love when people say
that cannot be kosher. I cannot believe you really can get away with that in a courtroom.
But
Perry Mason did.
Over an hour and a half ago.
So much of this too is I want to add to where Skip weaving these reactions in, and because ultimately this is a show for the arbiters, the panel over there, and so when you see them and when you don't see them.
It was fantastic, too, how you guys managed to dig up some beautiful reaction shots from Ann Cusack.
Yeah, there was a lot of footage to go through, and it just found some really great looks, a lot of good choices to make, too, and just to keep everybody alive and into the moment, because you really want to be with Chuck most of the time.
You kept everybody alive beautifully.
And then you stick on this.
Yeah.
This just Chuck.
Go where the money is.
And this is also a push-in, which isn't something we do a lot of on the show, but it's just the right thing to do.
We also, for just this portion, we changed the lens. We went to a wider lens just to sort of feel his, externally his mania a bit more.
It's perfect.
Want to talk about the wonderful piece of music that was...
Oh, that's true. Dave Porter did compose a piece of music for this moment that we struggled because it was great. It is a great piece of music, and who knows, maybe it's available to you, the viewer at home, at this point to watch with music. But we ultimately decided that Michael's performance carried it without.
Yeah, it was Gilligan and Lily.
I'm glad I didn't know what you were doing.
It was a moment where, at the end of that, the crew, when we finally cut, the crew applauded because it was just you had the feeling there in that moment of that push-in of just being completely riveted.
And I love this shot coming up, this last shot. You get so many great angles, Dan.
Oh yeah.
So good having Dan in the family.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love how
it starts
to come back. He goes to feel his pulse.
Yeah, I love that was a nice touch. Whose idea was that? The touching the.
That was Mr. McKean.
I've been doing that the whole series. You just don't.
Yeah, no, you know what? No, actually, no. That is true. That is true. Yeah, you're right.
The hands.
You do a lot of great stuff.
It's the pulse, but it's like I'm looking for the tumor that explains everything. It never shows up, but I always check there first.
I love this shot. What a great way to go out. What a gangbusters episode.
I'd like to take credit for it, but I'm pretty sure it's scripted. It is scripted. And that's that.
Gangbusters.
Well, it's been a pleasure, gentlemen.
Wow. Thanks for listening.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
I think this is one of the commentaries where you could hear us starting to watch the episode.
I know. Kind of
because
zone out.
It's a riveting one, and that's a tribute to the work that you guys did doing this. It's a good one.
It's a good chance for people to yell back at their TVs.